Spectrovision Radio.
While our government's official position is not to speculate on this subject, we can choose to let our minds explore other possibilities, to use our imaginations. For if we consider that astroscientists agree on one point, that the possibility of life elsewhere is not only quite probable, some feel it is there without a doubt. Let us suppose then that these objects are real space vehicles, extraterrestrial in origin, and not an illusion of the mind.
This is Somewhere in the Skies with Ryan Sprague.
Welcome to Somewhere in the Skies. I am your host, Ryan Sprague, and today we've got an awesome guest joining us. It is Patrick Armstrong from the Vetted YouTube channel and podcast. As many of you may know, Patrick just came out with a brand new documentary called Psionics, the Minds That Summon UFOs. So today we're going to talk all about the documentary with Patrick, what he thinks of the idea of psionics, this psychic way of summoning in UFOs or communicating with the intelligence behind these UFOs. I mean, Patrick went all over the United States and did experiments, tried psionics for himself, tried remote viewing, went to UFO conferences and talked to people who've done it, and everything in between. So, while this documentary kind of explores the provable and unprovable aspects of psionics, it's also a deeply personal story as well, which I really appreciated. That's actually what I took away from the entire documentary more than anything, was the human behind the possible non-human intelligence that we could be interacting with or possibly even summoning in. So the documentary is awesome. I cannot recommend it enough. You can learn more at the link in the show notes or visit psionics.film and check it out for yourself. But in the meantime, we're going to hear all about it from Patrick. But before we do, I got to ask you guys, please take just a few moments to rate and review Somewhere in the Skies podcast on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. Leave us comments over there on Spotify and rate and review on Apple. It really does help us out a lot. We're an independent podcast, and it can really help us get featured on the front page of Apple or Spotify, and that goes a really long way of getting the word out for our show and helping to spread the word, find visibility, gain new listeners. So yeah, if you could, please head on over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify and rate and review. If you happen to be watching this on YouTube, like, subscribe, leave comments, do all that YouTube-y stuff. We truly do appreciate that. If you want to help support us further, we have links to our Patreon, YouTube membership, and Apple Premium membership. Links in the show notes as well. But enough of that. Let's get to our conversation with Patrick Armstrong of Vetted, and let's hear more about psionics, the minds that summon UFOs. Enjoy.
For years, mankind has explored hidden powers of the mind. Most dismissed it as science fiction.
It is absolutely ridiculous. I don't know what we're doing believing in all this nonsense over all these years.
But what if they were wrong? What if they were wrong? What if you could summon UFOs? With your mind. What if you had the power inside of you all this time? Would you try it? Would you be afraid? Or would you just go for it?
These are going up.
They're going off.
And you interact with them, you form a bond. Oh no, you can't record any of that. Turn it off.
Turn it off for a second.
Controversial, huh? That's my middle name.
It's like it turned on and got brighter for 1 second.
Yeah.
I know there's aliens inside there.
Did you see that, Patrick? Oh my god.
Did you hear that? Something is in the bushes right behind you, dude.
I'm ready to see something. If you're willing to show it to me, I'm open. I just want to see what you are. And I look up, and there are these orange lights that are just drifting above the tree line.
I just don't even know what I'm doing with my life.
Oh man, we have been just having a blast talking off air here, but we decided to push record and actually do an interview with return guest. I had you on, Patrick. I don't know if you remember, for like a end of year or start of year debrief episode of Somewhere in the Skies in the past, but I want to officially welcome you for the very first time to like a proper Somewhere in the Skies interview, buddy.
Thank you so much, man. This is amazing. And I've had you on Vetted. So this
Oh,
is
yeah.
good. This is what we do, bro. This is it, you know. I love
Absolutely,
it.
man.
Super
Having these-
excited to be on, man.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, I mean, the reason we're having you on today, your documentary just dropped a couple days ago here. Psionics, the Minds That Summon UFOs. And I had an opportunity to watch a screening of it recently. And this is a hot topic right now. Psionics, you know, it's summoning UFOs with the mind, psychic abilities. I mean, it's kind of always been in the background of ufology, but I feel like it's coming to the surface more. And now you have hordes of people going out places and trying to do what your documentary tries to unravel, tries to dissect and see if there's anything to it. But I am getting ahead of myself. For any of our viewers, our listeners who I don't know how they wouldn't know who you are at this point in the UFO community, but if they don't, for some reason, tell us about Vetted. How did that all start? Like, give us a little background on you, if you
Sure.
don't mind. Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm sure there's some people that may not know. You know, you never know. Don't want to be too egotistical, right? To think everyone knows me, but yeah, Vetted. We started essentially launched Vetted like a few months before David Grush came out in 2023. Now, at the time, I didn't know he was coming out, and I recorded a bunch of interviews with Nick Pope, Mick West, Avi Loeb. That was hot off the Muamua stuff, right? That was happening. And I was essentially going to just do an interview show, right? Which is what I was doing before that, called Lone Star Plate. Had nothing to do with UFOs. And, you know, once David Grush came out, I was like, oh, wait, what's happening right now? This is kind of crazy. Like, it seemed like every conversation I had before that changed fundamentally. And so I sort of, you know, transitioned Vetted into sort of a commentary show on all the, you know, news, you know, past, present, and future, I would say, about ufology. And maybe some tangential, you know, topics that surround UFOs. You know, when you get into UFOs, it starts to branch out into some other different things like psionics, you know, which does include UFOs. But yeah, just started doing commentary and just slowly but surely, you know, thank you to the people that watch and listen and was able to build a small audience and, you know, here we are, man.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's grown immensely. Again, I know how hard it is to try to create something. I do it on a weekly basis. You're doing this on the daily, man. Like, you're coming out with the latest stories in the UFO world and like all these other kind of subtopics, as you mentioned as well. And you've really grown it into something that I think, you know, people wake up, they get their coffee and they see what's on Vetted today. And I use your stuff all the time, man. So I have to thank you
Awesome.
as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So I guess to kind of piggyback off of that, how did the opportunity come about for this whole psionics thing, the documentary? Like, what made you personally want to tackle this? And yeah, how'd that whole opportunity come about?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so there's the production company that helps me run Vetted. It's like a little small podcast group, right? And they have other podcasts, right? And that same production company is called Soho Podcast. They also run a documentary company called Alamo Pictures, and they approached me I want to say last March or so last year, and just said, "Hey, Patrick, we're thinking about doing like a UFO documentary or something around that. Like, would you mind having just a meeting and kind of talk to us about UFOs and whatever?" And that was it. That was literally sort of the gist of it. So I jump on a Zoom call, and I'm hanging out with a few people from the documentary company, producers and whatever, that sort of thing. And as we're going through the conversation, I bring up psionics. I don't remember honestly how it just sort of came up. I think Skywatcher was out. They're just asking me things, right? Maybe they even asked me about Skywatcher. And after the end of the conversation, this one guy, Glenn Barden, who is the director of this film, Psionics, he just says to me, like, "You know what, Patrick? Like, I think the film is like you. Like, let's follow you on a journey looking into this psionics thing, because I've never heard of it. That sounds interesting. Like, that sounds like an interesting story. Let's do that." So that was really the gist of it. It became a very simple elevator pitch, right? Just follow Patrick on his journey into psionics. That's simple. And then from there, we didn't know what was going to happen once we started filming. It just like all over the place. It's kind of a true documentary in the sense that it's not like we had it all scripted out like a lot of documentaries are. They're sort of scripted out, and then you go get all of that footage, right, and piece it together. And a lot of talking heads, and nothing wrong with those. I enjoy those documentaries, but we didn't want to make that. We wanted to make a very raw, essentially on the road, right, sort of documentary, and just follow my reactions to things and meeting people who claim to have this ability to summon, UFOs. And we just didn't know how it would unfold. And that was kind of cool and scary at the same time, right? Because you're investing this money, you're hoping something comes of it. But at the same time, I didn't want any secrets or gotcha stuff, right? It wasn't about, can I capture the best UFO footage and this and that? Because we didn't go in with an agenda, right? I basically approached it the same way I approached Vetted, right? Which was just, I don't know, right? I'm skeptical, but open-minded. I'm not trying to disprove psionics, but I'm also not trying to prove it. I'm just trying to see what happens and be a mirror. Essentially, I was just like a mirror. I'm just going to reflect back the experiences that I have, and we'll put it together in a nice cohesive story. And hopefully that's what people got. And really all credit to Glenn Barden, who directed it. He edited everything together. I was out in the field and filming myself. I filmed probably 95% of it, which probably wasn't a good idea, but I'm not a good camera guy, but low budget, independent film, right? Guerrilla style filmmaking. We just had to do what we had to do. And I think maybe to some extent it sort of fits the style of just my journey. So it's even my raw camera journey as well. But yeah, that was sort of the seed that started it, and just kind of how it grew.
Yeah, I mean, the best documentaries are the ones where you are on the journey and you're learning along the way. If you had the outcome already, what's the point? And like you said, I think it's so important to not prove or disprove, because nobody in the UFO world research community, nobody knows what the hell is going on. I tell people, if somebody is telling you what to think about UFOs or that they have the answers, run away as quick as you can, because they don't. They do not, man. None of them. That being said, I've interviewed thousands of witnesses at this point. And I remember in the really early days, maybe like episode 2, 3 of Somewhere in the Skies, God, which was like 10 years ago, man, which, oh my God,
Wow.
don't even
Congrats.
get me.
That's a cool accomplishment though.
Thanks. But I remember in those first handful of episodes, we did an episode where somebody talked about, you know, psychically being connected with UFOs, not so much summoning them, but like knowing a sort of knowing that something was about to happen. I woke up, I got out of my bed, I went and looked out the window. I don't know why, but when I did, I saw this. And I never really heard that before. And I
Wow.
thought it was interesting and I kind of put it on the shelf. And then it would sporadically show up in different witnesses that I spoke to throughout the years. And then boom, now it's like everywhere. Like we said, there are
Yeah.
groups of people who do this, official groups who go out and do these things and may even have been hired to do these sort of things. And you tackle all of this in the documentary. And I guess kind of the one I want to bring up first is the elephant in the room. You know, Jake Barber comes out and says that, like, you know, he recovered these craft and there was a psychic connection and him and other people were hired to like bring these things in or talk to him. You had people like Stephen Greer talking about this stuff for decades prior as well. But I would say, like when Jake Barber came forward, that was really the big one that got this on everyone's minds. And this was something that you did cover in the documentary. So, what do you make of Jake Barber, Skywatcher, and that whole group with what they're doing? And what do you think it is they are attempting to do or attempted to do, I guess?
I mean, whew, you know, that's a tough question because I tried to, you know, part of the appeal to our director Glenn Barton was Skywatcher in the sense that he thought, oh, this is something to include in the film, add a little quote legitimacy to this thing. And he's not from ufology. He has nothing to do with it. Doesn't know any of the history. Doesn't know anything. He comes from directing and producing science documentaries for the BBC and PBS and Netflix and things like that. And he's just like, oh, this is kind of interesting, Skywatcher. Let's see what we can do. See if we can reach out to him. We'll see if we can do an interview with him. Right? That was a whole part of the premise of Psionics. And I ended up speaking to Jake Barber on the phone because, like you said, he came out in January of last year of 2025 and kind of brought this whole psionics thing to the forefront, even though, like you said, it's been worded differently for other people and it has other things and it's been around with Greer and other people, Bledsoe and that sort of thing. And so tried to reach out to Jake and, hey, let's see if we can do an interview, right? I'm doing this documentary. And I spoke to him on the phone. Hey, yeah, Patrick, I'd love to get you out to to our facility and show you what we're doing, right? Because even I was confused, like, what exactly are you doing? Like, what exactly is happening? Like, I see the videos and I'm still a little confused on what exactly you like you said, attempting to do and have done, right? Like what's going on. And so we ended up talking to their CEO, who is not known at all. I don't want to dox that guy. But see if we could set up an interview. And they said, no, thank you. They were polite about it, but just, no, thank you. And I thought, well, that's kind of disappointing, right? And you see in the documentary that Jake tells me he's going to be at Contact in the Desert. And I'm filming at Contact in the Desert. I go to Contact, not just to meet him. I'm there just period. But he tells me he's going to be there and he doesn't, sort of hush hush. Right. And so I don't say nothing. I'm just, okay, great. I'll meet him there. I'll be able to talk to him, interview him, get him on camera, because that was the whole thing too. I can't meet with you unless I do it for the documentary. Like, I'm not trying to hang out and get coffee, bro. Like, I mean, not that I wouldn't, I'm just saying I'm doing a film. Baby. Yeah, I'm doing a film. So we can't, I have to have interactions that we can record. So anyway, he texts me while I'm at Contact, not waiting for him specifically, but just like, okay, when are you going to show up? What's going on? Because he had me send him a couple vetted shirts and stuff. He's like, I'm gonna wear it on stage at contact, all this stuff, and doesn't show. I text me, he can't make it. All right, and then we get the news we're not gonna be able to interview him anyway. Period. Right, and sort of Skywatcher just sort of goes dark last summer, right, for everybody, not just me, just in general. And I kind of talking to some people along the way, and they're just kind of telling me that they're going dark. They may be splitting up. I don't really know what's going on. And so I ended up interviewing Mike Batista in the film, who was one of Skywatcher's psionic assets that they used. And so we were able to at least get some sort of a Skywatcher connected interview. Although, I don't want to spoil anything the film, but I let's just say I can't get much out of him about Skywatcher. Do get something, but not what I was hoping out of the film. But nonetheless, still a fruitful conversation. But I really don't know. I'm as confused as anybody. Like, I don't know what Skywatcher's doing or going on, or what's happening with them. I have no idea. I'm equally as lost. The claims were big. In fact, in my opinion, if those claims happen, it would change humanity forever, because they claimed they were going to, quote, bring disclosure in a year from last January. Clearly, we're way past that, and nothing has happened. But that was the claim. They were going to work with the U.S. government and bring disclosure, right? Land of craft, have it presented, blah, blah, blah. We're all waiting.
Still waiting.
Still waiting.
Cagey bunch, man. I mean, I can say on the record, I have a very close connection with the documentary film crew who were filming Skywatcher, and I can't even get anything out of them. So it is what it is. We'll see where it goes on kind of the macro level. But again, what I like about your documentary is you bring it to the micro level. Like, it gets pretty personal with some of these people that you spoke to and traveled around the US talking to. And I want to get to some of them in a minute, but Contact in the Desert, you mentioned. Just in general, like, psionics aside, what was that experience like? I've never been to Contact. The 1 year I spoke at it was, of course, during the pandemic, so it was virtual. So I didn't get that whole the community aspect to it. It was just me doing one of these things that we're doing here today. But what was that whole experience like, going to Contact in the Desert and in meeting, I'm sure, people who watch your show, meeting people in all walks of life and belief systems? Like, if you had to, I guess, kind of synthesize your whole experience there, what was that like?
Yeah, Contact is great. I really enjoyed. I couldn't make it this year, and I was actually very disappointed because of how much fun I had last year. I was filming for the documentary, and you see some of that footage in the documentary at the beginning of what I did at Contact. So I was very stretched thin when I was there, because I'm filming for the documentary, but I'm also doing stuff for Contact. I did a live podcast. I'm introducing hosts, and I'm just trying to hang out and meet people, right? And people are coming up to me and wanting to talk. And I mean, I had a blast. Yeah, I think it's a phenomenal conference. I think Ron Janix and the crew that put that all together really do a great job of creating an environment that really is for anybody and their beliefs, which I like that. I didn't, as I'm kind of viewed as very skeptical in the community, and but I didn't feel like an outlier there, right? And I thought that was cool. And yeah, you're just getting to meet all these people that you generally interact with online. So I don't know about you. I'm 46, and I lived a big portion of my life before the internet was really a big thing in people's lives. I mean, the internet was around since the mid to late 90s, but not anything huge. And it slowly and surely became this bigger thing with social media and everything. And so I know a world before that where just in person was the thing. And So I really enjoyed that, to be honest with you. It felt like it was filling a void that I probably didn't even know I had, to be honest. Till I got there, I was like, oh, I need more of this in the community. So yeah, it was cool. It's a great conference. It's expensive to go. I mean, just to be transparent, it is very expensive to go. But I think if you have the funds or can somehow pull it together or save for a year, I think it's well worth it to go because anyone and everyone is there. Everyone's accessible. You could just run into whoever, Jacques Vallée, Ross Coulthard, Jeremy Corbell, just sitting down having a drink. You can just talk to anybody. It's really cool. Yeah, really. I think it's a great, great conference. I highly recommend it.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, and again, it's like putting faces to names that we just see online or on,
Yeah,
screens all the time. It makes a big difference. Someone you
yeah,
might not even agree with in something in the UFO world, you meet up face to face and have a beer, like that can completely change your entire perception of the
100%.
discourse. I love it, man. Yeah,
Exactly,
I'm with
exactly.
you.
Well said. Well
I
said.
crave it. I crave
Yeah,
it. For
yeah.
sure. Now, at contact, and then after that, we kind of follow you on these different experiments that you do. So now we got this idea of like psionics again, the idea of summoning UFOs using like different. It depends on who you kind of do it with. There's modalities, or there's like tiers of how to do this properly, scientifically, metaphysically. Um, so I guess I don't want to like go through each one because I think people really need to see you in the process learning how these things work for different people in the documentary. But what were some of your most like memorable moments of trying to test the boundaries of what psionics are? Or yeah, what were those experiences like? Any really stick out to you? And did they
Hmm.
surprise you? Did they disappoint you? Like, I'll let you have the floor with that. I don't
Yeah.
wanna, like, narrow in too much.
Um, I mean, there were so many. It was sort of in twofold. Like I would say, you know, a lot of the documentary I'm by myself, just
Mhm.
hanging out with different people. But there was a good chunk of it where I was with Gino from the Y Files. Pardon me. He came along with me for my stuff in Sedona, Arizona, and in Utah. And we actually tried to film in Las Vegas too, but that just didn't work out for no conspiratorial reasons, just like traffic, literally, and from Utah to Vegas, tried to drive there. But um, there was so much. I was in a brand new world that I just, even though I cover this all the time, this was a different thing. Like you're in person with these people that I've never met. They weren't like, some of them are kind of known in the community, but maybe not necessarily online. Um, Carl Crusher, maybe the most well known of them, but there were just a lot of people I didn't know, and I was just letting it sort of unfold. And there's a lot of interesting experiences. I think more than anything, what surprised me the most overall, and I kind of bring it up at the end, is just it became, as I was filming it, it became less about, oh, I gotta capture, something of these people doing psionics, right? Let me get some good capture of these things flying around that they are saying it's because of them or whatever.
Mhm.
It became less about that and more about the people and getting to know the people behind this. And like you said, it gets very personal. And honestly, there's so much footage we left on the cutting room floor that is even more personal with a lot of people. There's just so much to include. We probably could have made a TV series out of all the footage we have, to be honest with you. But yeah, it just became about the people, and what surprised me the most, I guess, is people may have some, what you might call, and what I call in the film, crazy ass, claims, and this is some batshit crazy stuff. But at the same time, these are just normal people,
Yeah.
normal everyday people, work normal job, live a normal life. They got kids, they got this, they're just living a normal life. And then they also say, I can talk to UFO, I can communicate with aliens, I can do this, I can do that. And you know, that was sobering to be like, you know what, you know, just because you have crazy ideas or make crazy claims doesn't necessarily inherently make you crazy as a person. And I think that was kind of cool, and it really reinforced that you know, I do need to remain open-minded in this topic, and you know, you can't get too jaded with things, which is very easy to do. And I'm not saying I'm perfect and it doesn't happen, but yeah, I think it just kind of reinforced that, you know, I need to remain open to a lot of this, to what's going on.
You mentioned the word mirror earlier, and I agree. Like the thing I love about the UFO topic is not the possibility of life elsewhere or the idea that we can summon something other, something non-human, or all of the cases and the government stuff, and it's the people. And like you
Yeah.
said, like you learned so much. There's one part in the film, I won't give it all away, but there's a father and son where like the father wasn't a part of the kid's life and you know kind of walked out on the family, and then what was the one thing that brought them together? Psionics, which was beautiful, man. Like the thought that
Yeah.
like a kid who felt abandoned by his father, they reconnected through this one thing of sky watching. Like that's awesome. It reminds me of like Jodie Foster's character in Contact. Her relationship with her father was all through communication and looking to the stars and stuff like that. So again, I love that like you didn't come out, and again, we're not giving anything away because you do have
It's
video.
okay.
You have video in the documentary of possible things being summoned in. You have video of the devices people use and all these gadgets and like we said, the modalities to kind of bring these things in. Like
Yeah.
we could talk about that stuff forever, but at the end of the day, it's the people. You know, there's that one group you were with all the spoon bending people as well
Yeah.
who think they can like do that with their mind. Like at first I'm like, "Oh god, okay, here we go."
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
again, like you brought this humility to it all that made it deeply human. And I loved that aspect of it. The father and son, anything with a father and son gets to me. Like I don't care, movie,
Totally.
documentary, like that's the one thing
Totally.
that tugs at my heartstrings. So if
Yeah.
anything, that's what I took from your film, and I really, really respected that. You mentioned another name, and this isn't really covered in the documentary, but I would love to get your thoughts on it. There's the idea of like summoning with your mind, and you do go into like kind of the history of this stuff, whether it was Project Stargate in the United States government or the early spiritualists and seances and like all that stuff. I love that whole kind of refresher course. But the one thing that I didn't really think about with all this was the praying aspect. And you mentioned the name Chris Bledsoe. Um, what do you think of that? Not the psychically summoning them in, but literally like praying to God or gods to summon these things in. What do you think? What do you think of what the Bledsoes do? Their approach to all this sort of stuff.
Yeah, you know, we didn't include them in the documentary, and I actually had people ask me, why wouldn't you include him in this documentary about this? That's literally what he does and he's known for. Um, and maybe tangentially by interviewing the Oglesbys because they know the Bledsoes, I kind of maybe did it in the sense that that's what the Oglesbys, which is the father and son that you spoke about earlier, that's what they thought was happening. That it was God, right? That they were seeing, and they could have explained it in the film, right? And but you know, Bledsoe's like a big name. Again, I was trying to avoid a lot of that. I was trying to just get regular people, have regular people reach out to me, and I want to talk to you because I've been very critical of the Bledsoes on my show, and not just because like, oh, I just hate that guy. I hate this thing, and that's bullshit. There's no way to do that. It's not that. I've literally seen Chris Bledsoe, you know, post out of focus stars as videos and be like, "I summoned this." What, you summoned a star? That doesn't make any sense, bro. That's light years away. Like, What are you talking about? And then with my own eyes, and we didn't even include this in the documentary, but while I was filming at Contact in the Desert last year, I went to Chris Bledsoe's Skywatch. So I went, I'm not just going to armchair this. I'm going to actually go and see this with my own eyes and experience it. And maybe I've been wrong. Maybe there's something there. And to be honest, I was severely disappointed because when the Skywatch started, at the very beginning, he's like, at this time, can't remember the exact time, but he makes a prediction. At this time, a triangle craft is going to fly by. Just remember at this time, right? And so he's saying that, and everyone's waiting for this moment to come. And then the time comes and nothing's happening. And then 1 or 2 minutes after that time, this plane starts to fly by. Literally a plane. Low, like a low plane. It was low. I mean, you could see it. This clear sky, Palm Springs. It's a plane. And he starts saying, there's the craft. Everyone, you hear people in the audience like, that's a plane, dude, right? What are you talking about? That's a plane. And he starts saying in the mic, stop saying it's a plane. Stop that. Stop saying that. And I'm just like, bro, what do you mean? Stop saying that. Like, it is a plane.
Hey guys, Ryan Sprague here from Somewhere in the Skies. The podcast has always been and always will be completely free for you to listen to. But creating it every week takes a lot of time, research, and resources. And to be honest, it's just never been free for me to create. That's why we built a few simple ways for you to help support the show and keep it going strong. You can join us over on Patreon or through Apple Premium. Both offer the same awesome perks. Ad-free episodes, early access to new content, exclusive bonus shows, and even priority to ask our guests your listener questions. It's a quick and easy way to support what we do for just a few bucks a month. And right now, you can even try Patreon for free for a week to see if it's right for you. To learn more and to join, head over to patreon.com/somewhereskies. That's patreon.com/somewhereskies. Or hit that subscribe button right at the top of your Apple Podcast feed. Thank you so much for listening, for supporting, and as always, keep looking up.
And I saw this giant, 8-foot hairy creature just run across the road.
She was claiming a man was talking to her through the sound machine.
If there are any spirits in this room, please give us a sign that you are here. And as soon as he finished that sentence, the door to the bedroom slammed shut and the candle blew out. And now the room is pitch black.
As it walked like an ape, but human though, too also.
But as they moved towards us, they grew in height and slenderized and became distorted.
We are the Hollow Sky Podcast, and welcome to the Hollow Cult. Join us every Monday for tales of the strange and unusual, wherever you listen to podcasts. And remember, stay safe, stay weird.
And what really gave it away as little backup evidence is that they had this huge laser that was set up on the ground, like not a handheld, not like a little bitty handheld one. We're talking like huge on the ground. It's robotic move, so that they could point out stuff in the sky to people like, hey, look over here, because we got a big crowd. You're looking up at a big sky, sort of 360. Everyone's looking every which way. So they use lasers to be like, look over here. Could be something. No problem, right? There's no problem. But when it came time for that, when that plane's flying by, you hear Chris Bledsoe on the mic say, don't point the laser at that. Don't point the laser at that. Why? I'll tell you why. Because it is a federal crime to point a laser at an airplane.
Yeah.
Right? So he knew that it was an airplane. He knew don't point the laser at, because he was pointing lasers at all kinds of stuff before that. Well, why wouldn't you point the laser at the one thing you, quote, predicted the triangle craft to come. And I have to admit, I was just severely disappointed by that. And you know, a lot of people like Chris Bledsoe. They talk him up. He's this, he's that, he's whatever. No problem. Do what you want. I just check out. It's not that I want to attack the guy or go after the guy or whatever. If I'm asked, I give my real opinion. But other than that, I just leave it alone. And I just not a fan of him or what he does in that sense, just because I've seen what I might call, you know, manipulation, and just not a fan of that. You know, my motto on Vetted is I want to believe, not be deceived. And I'm really not a fan of people trying to manipulate me or deceive me. You know, if I genuinely believe you believe this thing, I'll listen to you all day, no matter how crazy it sounds. If you genuinely believe it, you know, you don't know what you saw. You saw something, you can't explain it. You know, you had an experience, you don't know. You're doing psionic, you're summoning things. I think something's going on, you know, no problem. There's genuine people. But the moment you're actively know you're doing something wrong, like, you know, it's not true, and you're still trying to convince me or deceive me, I'm out. I ain't got time for that. There's plenty of what I might call compelling or interesting things out there. Why am I going to waste my time on that? And just to be fair, Gino, who filmed with me, right? Gino from the Y-Files, he loves Chris Bledsoe. He's friends with him. They hang out, they talk, he defends him, he likes him, he whatever. And me and Gino get along great. You know, we can respect each other's opinion on the matter. And I like that, first of all, about Gino. Gino's the man. And yeah, it's just how it is, you know, just kind of where I stand on it. So
yeah, I appreciate that, man. I mean, I made it clear on my show, like, I grew up devout Catholic. I still sort of practice religion, not so much nowadays, but like, I consider myself a Christian, but I 100% disagree with everything Chris Bledsoe does and believes and is doing. So there can be, you know, you could still disagree with someone, but not, you know, be an ass about it, I guess, in so many ways. And I've been guilty of that a lot in the past, so I have a lot to learn as well. But I love that. I love that Gino can, like, still, you know, tackle this from an objective point of view with you on the film, and still be friends with Chris. That's great. That's what this is all about.
Well, we're friends first, and
Exactly.
we respect each other's beliefs, and talk, you know, we talk about all kinds of things. And I mean, that's where real friendship starts, right? It's not, I don't judge any of my friends on their beliefs of UFOs and aliens. I don't give a fuck. Pardon my French. I'm sorry.
Not at all.
You know, I just don't care, right? That's like, that's your opinion. That's great. You think this, you think that, like, of course we're friends. That happens so much in the UFO community, where you're judged on your opinion of UFOs. I find that mind blowing, that people would think you're not a good person. You deserve to go away because you don't agree with XYZ whistleblower, XYZ person, or like, what are we talking about? This is nuts, dude. I mean, say that in real life, like, you know, say that in real. I don't like what you think about disclosure. Therefore, you're not a good person. Therefore, you deserve to go away. Like, what? I mean, you sound silly. It sounds silly. Like, I can hear other people's opinions and disagree. Like, no problem. Like, it's not a big deal.
Well, skepticism, that's a very important part of the UFO field, one I think is often overlooked and overshadowed by the believers. And I don't know where I stand on any of the UFO stuff. I change my mind every day. I've heard 1,000 millions of stories at this point, but, like, I don't know what I believe, and I choose not to believe in any of it. I just choose to let it happen and take it from there. But I did appreciate in your film how you did bring a skeptical approach to this through an interview with probably the most notable skeptic in the UFO field, and that's Mick West. What was that experience like, and what'd you take from what he had to kind of, I guess, talk about when it comes to the whole psionics thing?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely wanted to interview Mick West, right? I like Mick West. I've interviewed him. Like I said earlier in the show, it was one of the first interviews I ever did for Vetted. I want to hear all opinions. I want to hear different perspectives, and I'm willing to listen to you tell me about your claims that you can summon UFO. Well, why can't I listen to this guy that's saying that's probably not true, or it's this or that, or he has his own opinion. Why can't I do that, right? Mick West absolutely gets ostracized in the community, and I honestly don't understand it. People do a lot of mental gymnastics. Say, well, it's because he's disingenuous. Well, okay, what, you know his heart? I mean, like, what? Point to an example. What, you just don't like that he has a different opinion than you and a different conclusion of videos or events or think like, who? Why do you care so much? Like, it kind of blows my mind. So yeah, absolutely, I wanted to include him in the film and talk to him. He was kind enough to do the interview, and in fact, I didn't have time, but he offered like, hey, I'll go do psionics with you. Let's go out in the field. He's like, no one's ever asked me to do that. I said, I would love to do that. Let's go out together and do this. And we just didn't have the time to get that done. And we're making, I don't want to necessarily say a follow-up to Psionics, but we're tentatively calling it Psionics 2. Like we are going to do another documentary. So, what it's all entirely about, I don't know exactly. We're still figuring that out. But I may include something like that. Like I may be able to do it now for this next one and get Mick West and actually go out in the field and do some of this with him. I just think it's important to hear, like you, Ryan, right? Hear other voices. I just don't see anything wrong with it. And I absolutely wanted to have a balanced, objective, journey on this. And again, and so did our director, Glenn Barden. I mean, again, that's how he approaches things. So of course we're going to talk, we want to hear different perspectives. And it wasn't like all a Mick West style documentary, right? But it wasn't a all non Mick West style documentary. Again, it was supposed to be balanced. That was kind of the point.
Again, I appreciated that. You put yourself in the lion's den. You tried psionics. You tried, and I want to talk a little bit about this before we start to wrap up. Remote viewing. We won't give away what happens, but I was pretty impressed with that section of the documentary. You tried remote viewing as well. What do you think about that whole thing? The fact that like the United States government used remote viewing at one point in their, like, I guess, psychic warfare. And then you tried it and had some interesting results. What was it like personally trying psionics, and what was it like trying remote viewing for yourself?
It was fun. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna lie. I had fun doing it. And it was interesting. And the remote viewing, I didn't know was going to happen just because, that's not really what I set out to do. But again, just like anything in this field, you start to go down a path and you realize there's just other things that branch out from it. And that in the film, I filmed with this woman named Zenka Caro out of Sedona, Arizona. And she is the one that leads the spoon bending in the film. She leads the remote viewing with me and Gino, and she also was out there at Bradshaw Ranch with us, right, filming. And she just, I just met her. Ron James introduced me to her, and then from there, Zenko was just like, "Oh, I want to do this with you. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this." And I was just like, you know what, just I'm in. So we had like a whole day of what we call Jedi training. And there's actually a lot of things that we did that just we didn't include in the film. At the same time, I'm doing the remote viewing. So we did remote viewing. Then we did something where she showed me pictures of people, me and Gino, pictures of people I've never seen before in my life, complete strangers, and would just say, tell me about this person. Who is this person? Right. And I would just say things, Gino would too, and that was kind of interesting because she was like, well, you got them all right, Patrick. Like, this is who this is, and this is what they're like, and this is what I was like. I was kind of blown away by that myself. Like, whoa, what's going on here? But at the same time, not necessarily that we talk about in the film, and it's something I would like to explore. There's you got to be careful with interpretation. And you can really be led down a path to make things connect when maybe they don't, right? And I don't know if that's happening. Maybe there is truly something exotic happening. but it wasn't a scientific experiment, right? We're just in a living room, we're just going with it. And I'll be honest, just my raw gut was, I was surprised at some of the remote viewing results. If I'm being honest, I was kind of like, oh damn, okay. And even Gino, right, he's doing it with me. I thought, oh, that's interesting. But there's a part of me that wants to pump the brakes and go, okay, is this because I have superpowers, or is it because XYZ? And I really need to have that determined before I cross the finish line into, oh, this is legit and this. But I will say it was interesting and compelling, and I'm up for anything. I'm up for trying this stuff and giving it a go, and I highly recommend people do it. And look, at the very least, you just have fun. You have fun doing it,
Right.
and same thing with skywatching, sitting in a backyard or going out somewhere, getting some lawn chairs and cracking a few beers and hanging out and seeing what can happen. What's wrong with that? That's like at the essence of who we are as humans, to just sort of existentially think about what's out there and what is possible. And this very sort of hopeful, optimistic, um, you know, kind of fantastical curiosity. I'm all in. I'm all about it. I think it's fun.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, again, like in a world that is becoming increasingly isolated, I feel like the idea of looking up into the sky or coming together communally, it's rare and it's special. And I think that's again kind of what you, at least what I took from your film, what you kind of discovered along the way is like, yeah, it's not even about like communing with the craft or the aliens. It's about finding your son again, finding your friend, finding someone that you have something in common with, and like just exploring what those relationships could be. And that's what I love. That's what I love about this topic, and like asking those existential questions, as you mentioned. So, to kind of, I guess, wrap things up, what do you personally feel you kind of learned along the way with Psionics, with the film? Yeah, what'd you take away from the whole experience overall?
Well, just on a logistics level, like making a film, I'd never done that before. So that was a brand new experience, from, the seed of the idea to pre-production to production to post-production to now I'm in the promotion and sort of, marketing phase of putting this film out, has been amazing. It's been a roller coaster ride. There's been high points, low points, frustrating points, celebratory points, and I've learned so much. Working with Glenn Barton, the director, um, was amazing. He's such a great guy. I learned so much from him because he has such a long history in this, the industry, and yeah, just from that aspect alone, it was so great, so fruitful. I'm so excited to make another one. Now, Psionics, it just came out on Friday, and it's already been a success for us. Like I honestly am blown away by the reception and by the amount of people that have supported the film and our website and gone and purchased it, and have even signed up to help us with the next film. Like, my mind is blown. Like, literally my mind is blown, that because I was so nervous and anxious about that. Like, you work so hard on something and you're going to release it. What are people going to think? Are they going to bomb? Is vetted over, right? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, is this all going to explode in my face? And I just didn't know. But yeah, it's been great. And just from a, personal side of the phenomena, it taught me a lot of things that I misunderstood or maybe didn't understand all the way. Like, for instance, one thing I talk about in the film is I finally understand. I can absolutely relate to people when they, say, I had an experience here. Look at my phone. Let me show you the video. Right. And then you
Yep.
go, well, that's shit, dude.
Yeah,
You did.
yeah.
There's a dot in the sky. I get it. I get it now, because it is so hard to film out there when you see something and capture it on your whatever camera. It really is hard. And the experience you have personally in the moment, right? And then what you show on the camera, it's night and day. Doesn't even
Absolutely.
match. And I can totally relate now to people that come with a personal experience, and then maybe the video they have is shit. I get it. I can now go, you know what? Let me hear your personal experience, because I bet you're right. It is more profound. It was better in person. It felt something more like, I totally get that now. And there were many things like that in the film. And I'm much more open-minded and interested in the topic from this aspect of just wanting to go out and explore in real time, in the real world, this stuff. It's great to talk about it in the studio and at home and with friends and this and that, but there's nothing more fruitful than actually getting out there and investigating this stuff and trying to experience it for yourself.
Well, I mean, what a perfect time for this documentary to come out. We've got Disclosure Day, the big Steven Spielberg movie,
Yeah.
dropped this week. A lot of our friends and colleagues have already seen it, which I'm super jealous of. But
Me
I
too.
got to ask you, man, are you planning on seeing it? Are you going to cover it on Vetted? And what do you think of this idea that finally the experiencers, the witnesses, people you spoke to at Contact in the Desert, like they're finally getting this platform? This movie, Disclosure Day, is said to be about the experiencers. So, like, yeah, you're gonna see it. What do you got planned to cover in terms of that? And yeah, what are you hoping for with Disclosure Day?
Yeah, of course, I'm super excited to see the movie. I mean, Spielberg's one of the he's to me the greatest American filmmaker that ever was, UFOs aside. He's made literally perfect movie. You know, Jaws is a perfect movie to me. But it's just such iconic films throughout his career, stuff we, grew up on, and a lot of people grew up on, and this is a topic that's always been close to his heart. And to see him come back around now, when he's been inspired by and said so in interviews of kind of things from 2017 to now, right? And the fighter pilots and this and that, he's in, and he wanted to make a movie about that, right? How would the world react to just from one day to the next, this exposure of disclosure? He got to make this movie, and like you said, I think it's going to add some validity to the topic, and maybe people won't be so afraid to maybe take it a little more seriously if they had been afraid before. And I think it definitely brings it into the forefront of mainstream, not just media, but just mainstream conversations that people may have at dinner tables and this and that, right? Like family dinners, family fun. Like people cannot talk about it because they've got a foundation of this Disclosure Day Spielberg movie to sort of base off, and then they can take the conversation from there, and it kind of gives it some legitimacy. So, yeah, I think it's a cool thing, and I cannot wait to see the movie. I'm a little disappointed that I've seen so much already, because I like going into movies a little blind and just kind of being surprised. But I've got vetted like yourself, right? You got to show, you got to kind of cover things. I've reacted to the trailers and this and that. So yeah, I'll definitely be covering on the channel, doing a spoiler review when I see the movie. I'm in Spain. It's going to be a little harder for me to see it than most people. I live in a small town. They're not showing it at the one theater that's in my town. That's like 5 movie screens. So I got to travel outside to see it, and I have I have something going on this weekend, so I can't see it this weekend. So I'm going to see it later than everybody, which kind of sucks. But yeah, I mean, I just it's going to be awesome, man. It's Spielberg, UFOs. Let's go.
Let's go. I love it, man. Yeah. And it'll give you some time to process it too.
Sure.
After everyone's already kind of done their stuff. I love it. I can't wait to see you cover it on the channel for sure. So of course, like last question before we go, where can we find Vetted? If you're watching this, we've got the website for Psionics up, but if you're just listening to the podcast, tell us where we can find your documentary. And again, shout out to your director. They did a brilliant job with this one. So yeah, let us know where we can find everything, Patrick.
Yeah, I appreciate you putting it on the screen. Yeah, it's real simple. The Psionics, the Minds That Summon UFOs, is available exclusively at psionics.film. It's a website we created for it. You can purchase the film there. And it comes with an additional, basically 3 hours of extra footage that's not included in the film, with the purchase. And again, you can also sign up to support us for the next film that we're making. And we've had a lot of people do that, which is great. And Vetted, as always, is, search Vetted on YouTube. That's easy. And I do want to say that people have been asking, can we only get it on the website? Is that the only place? Yes. For right now, we're an independent film. So for right now, we launched it just on our website, again, with all that additional footage. But it is coming out on streaming platforms in early fall, maybe late summer. We're already working with a distributor, but that process, that's another thing I learned about. That process takes time, and there's a lot of nuts and bolts that got to be moved around, this and that, to get a release date, get it set up, and get it approved by all the platforms, and it's a whole process. But we're in the midst of that. We have been for a minute. So it is coming out on streaming platforms. Apple TV, Amazon. So if people want to wait to see it, they can. But you won't get the extra footage and any of that. And again, if you just want to support independent filmmaking, this is the best way, because the streaming platforms take a huge cut, and we wanted to try to avoid that initially, kind of do it twofold. So anyway,
I love that, man. Yeah, support the work you guys put into it. I know it couldn't have been cheap. I know a lot of time, dedication, sacrifice goes into making these things. I'm finishing up my first major documentary right now as we speak. So it's a thing. So guys, go to psionics.film, support it there. That'll get, that'll help support Patrick and the whole crew, more than having it waiting 3-4 months to have it on Amazon and all that. Go do that too. But right now, go to psionics.film for sure, brother. So again, wonderful work. I love how you kind of put the experiencers first when it came to this thing. I think it's vitally important. And it's so cool to see that you had such a rewarding experience. And I can't wait to see what you do next. So thank you. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks, Ryan. Really appreciate it, man. This was awesome, as always, of course. All right, y'all. Every day's a gift. Peace.